Hi. Oh man, I need a haircut. Today I'm going to tell you about how I figured out how to make the connectors to connect to a battery, a 12-volt battery, using like 6 to 8 gauge wire because you want to have the thickness. And I found that the connectors are very expensive. You need a crimper, and you need, and then you have to buy the connectors, and you have to decide whether you want to buy the large connectors or the small connectors, and what size connectors you want. And I figured out a way, finally, how to make the cable ends using a copper pipe. And it works really good. And I got the idea from looking at how jumper cables are connected together. It costs almost nothing. And so let's dive right in and check it out. Okay, to start out with, what we're going to do is we're going to need some copper pipe. And I have to have some right down here. Just used copper, it's, I believe it's 1/2 inch pipe, and we're going to want our vice grips, a hacksaw. I've got 2 sets of vice grips. And we're going to want a hammer, this little tiny one here, hammer. And what else do we need? Oh, and we'll need a drill to drill a hole where we can put our battery post through. Oh yes, and we are also going to have to figure out some way to hold the copper pipe down while we cut it. And I'm fairly new in this new shop of mine, and so I haven't got that quite figured out. I've got an old vise out in the garage, but I haven't. It hasn't quite worked out yet. Hey, it's a $1,000 house. If you're interested, hit me up in the comments, and I'll tell you about how I ended up with a $1,000 house with a workshop and a garage and all the appliances. So anyway, we've got to figure out a way to hold it down. Oh yes, and I almost forgot. We're also going to need to have some cable, some wire that we're going to attach this connector onto the end here. And this is, I believe it's 6 or 8 gauge, and this happens to be aluminum. So in that case, because we're using copper, the aluminum also comes, I've got this oxide inhibitor. So just to make sure there's no corrosion in there. Okay, so we need a cable. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we are going to want to figure out how much of this cable we are going to have inside the connection. So I've got about 1 inch cut off here, and I'm going to bare a little bit, maybe another 1/2 inch as well. So let's say 1.5 inches of bare cable here, and then we have to we want to make our in this case, I'm going to make my connector about 2 inches long. So I'm going to cut a length of 2 inches off of this. Okay, for the first cut, I'm just going to hold it with my hand instead of trying to clamp it on there. It seems to be complicated to clamp it on. So here we go. So now that I cut that piece off with the hacksaw, I remembered I actually have a pipe cutter, which would have made it way easier. So there you go. Anyway, I've got a 2-inch piece of copper pipe. Now we'll make the end, we'll make our adapter, whatever you call them. The thing that connects to the battery. Okay, so here's what we've got. It's not looking very fancy right now, but we're going to shape that with a hammer in a bit anyway. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this leftover side here and we're going to cut it part way on each side. So we'll go there to there, there to there. Stay tuned, I'll just show you. I'll cut it and then you can see how it's done.
The cuts I'm doing here create tabs that will bend easily to encircle the wire. And if you have made the wire long enough to go in under the rest of the copper pipe, then it extends beyond where the tabs go. So that's useful as well. Make sure and give it a really good cleaning before you put the wire in there. You want it to be shiny on the inside and preferably shiny on the outside so you have a really good connection. And if you're using, as I am, the aluminum wire, then you will want to also use the stuff that I showed you a little earlier. So clean and polish it thoroughly, and then insert the wire and bend the tabs over the wire. Use the vice grips to squeeze it on there really tight. You want to set it really tight and clamp it on and make sure there's absolutely no movement of the tabs around the wire. You want that to be nice and solid. Hammer it all into place really tight and you'll have a really solid fitting. It works really, really well. Enjoy. I hope that this works for you.